What's that? Okay. Om Sahana Vavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. From next week on, we will also chant the what is called the Gita Dhyanam. So that takes about a minute or so to do, and we will start practicing that, which is a special prayer for the recitation of the Gita. And so in addition to Sahana Bhavatu, we will also chant that. So we will start that from next one. So we are, as you know, we are not going to have a class next Saturday because Swami Tattva ji will be here, and you're of course all invited to come to his lectures. But we will resume it the 2 weeks from now, isn't that right? Today is what, 9th? Yes. And so 16th and 23rd, we will have a Saturday, the 23rd. I think so. I have to look at the when is Thanksgiving? That's 28th. Okay. So 30th we have to see whether we need to have it, but we will certainly have it on the 23rd. Okay? So will that. So what we did in the last class was to say that, so there were 3 topics in the 4th chapter, and we covered 2 of them. So the first one was a discussion about the nature of avatara. It's called Avatara Rahasyam. So we did that. Then the second topic was an understanding of what knowledge is. And so one thing to reiterate is that in the structure of the Bhagavad Gita, there are 2 main things to be well understood in life. So one is karma and the other one is jnana. One is what do I need to do in my life if I have to do some things, and we all have to do things. What is it that I should do? This is what is called karma. The other one is what is there to be known. So the very importance of knowledge is the other topic. These are the 2 main topics on anybody's life. This is what is the Kriya Shakti and Jnana Shakti. So there we saw that the Bhagavad Gita is emphasizing karma in chapter 3 and jnanam in chapter 4. Not exclusively, but highlighting, focusing on it. The 2 of them are related, as we will see today also. So chapter 3 was devoted to karma, and chapter 4 is devoted to jnana. Okay? So the Jana Yoga, with verse number 24, is really the crux of Vedanta. This is where it is, which is pointed out in great detail. So this is what it is. We saw that. And we talked about, in terms of the nature of the Atma, the conscious being, which is not a product of the body, uh, not limited. We all did all this last week, and I won't go into this again. So this was the second topic. Then the third topic of the fourth chapter, which we will begin today, is knowing that the main thing, the first topic, which is the avatara, was really a side topic, was not the main topic. Main topic is the Jana Yoga. From that perspective, some issues with respect to how do you understand the knowledge very clearly and very definitively is what is called Jnana Sadhanani. So the means of knowing. This is the third topic of the fourth chapter. And so this we will see today. In this third topic, there are three subtopics. One is called an attitude in our life called yajna, which we will go into some more detail today. This is all sadhanani for knowledge. So the way you approach your life, what kind of attitudes you should have in order for you to prepare yourself for knowledge. This is what is called yajna. And we will go into that in a minute. So this is one of the first subtopics of the Jnana Sadhanani. The main thing is Jnana Sadhanani, and there are subtopics of yajna. The second one, which is embedded in that, is Jana Mahima. And the reason why this is talked about is that unless you understand why this is so important in your life, you will not do it. So this is very common that unless something is being praised and accentuated and reiterated, what's really important, one doesn't do it. And so Mahima here means you should understand what you're getting. You will not really have yajnas and so on and so forth until you see, in fact, the number 2 and 3. What is the Mahima and what is the Phalam? What is being achieved by it? This has to be very clear. We do not embark on any action until we are convinced this is good for me. And so that is being also talked about in the third subtopic of the fourth chapter. And so now let's go back to the first of the three subtopics, what is called yajna. So what is yajna? So in altogether, 12 yajnas are mentioned in the fourth chapter. And we will take a few of them. We will not be able to do all of them because this is more of a summary kind of a class. But you can always go back and look at all 12 of them and so on. But let's understand what yajna is. What do you mean by that? So yajnas have two common ingredients. Two common ingredients. One is a sense of discipline. Sense of discipline means this needs to be done. It should be adhered to. Like, for example, taking a shower or going to the bathroom regularly or getting up in the morning and reaching your work, whatever it is, this requires a certain discipline. You cannot say, you may have an exception on a given day, but it needs to really be inculcated as a commitment on your part. This is what is called discipline. This is number one. The second one is very interesting because we have a lot of disciplines in our life. I go for a workout. I will do that after this class also. I go to Equinox and I work out. And I am really amazed at the discipline of some of these people who already are so bulked up. And they've got muscles and they've got chest muscles and side ones and so on. And still they come almost every day. I see them. There's dozens of people that I see who go through a lot of pain and suffering because of the discipline. Somehow they feel that my body is very important, how I look is very important. I mean, I go there because I'm getting old and I don't want to have flabby, my doctor has all told me that you need to have some muscles. You cannot just so I'm just doing it for survival, not for looks or anything. But I find there are so many men and women both who are really exercising for discipline. And so the second topic that makes it the discipline into a yajna is an understanding of Ishvara in your life, understanding of who God is, what is the influence of God, what is the importance of, what is the relationship with it. When you do a discipline with bringing Ishvara into your life, that sense of discipline is called yajna. So this is a definition of yajna. Yajna is, as we will see from some of the examples, is a dedicated exercise of discipline, keeping in view Ishvara's role in your life. This is what is called yajna. Okay? So as we go through the examples of yajna, some of it will become clear and we can also discuss it otherwise. Now, out of all the yajnas, there is one yajna where a third ingredient is required. In all the other yajnas, only two are required. In one of them, a third one is required, and we will come to that later. I'll just won't do that. Well, I think we might as well do that now. I think I mentioned that. This is called Jana Yoga, yajna of knowledge. Here, a third ingredient is a living guru. Discipline is important, a sense of Ishwaratvam is important, but not enough. For a reason that we will see, you need a teacher and a teaching, and not just books, but a real living teacher. So that is the Jnana Yajna. And this is all given in the Gita, so you don't take my word for it. This is, and I'll explain some of it later on. Anyway, that's the only exception. So let us look at a few yajnas, a few disciplines. The first one is Japa Yajna. Not the first one, but a few of them. I'm just citing a few of them. I think about 7, 8 of them, not all 12. It's called Japa Yajna. So Japa Yajna means if you know chanting and if you have learned chanting, then doing it regularly, either a silent chant or a vocal chant, either in the company of others or alone, doesn't matter. There are various different ways. But a chanting in a very sonorous, good, vibration-oriented chanting is a very good discipline. It's a good discipline for you to... So the whole idea here is, how do you get prepared for jnana? This is what it is. So chanting is one of them that you can do. And these are not in terms of importance. I'm just giving you all of them. The second one is Dhyana Yajna. So Dhyana Yajna here means that the various steps of Patanjali Yoga, Yama, Niyama, Asana, and so on, all of them with a sense of preparing your mind, of excluding unnecessary thoughts and just focusing your thoughts on some given object by keeping Ishvara in your mind, but to utilize the presence of Ishvara in your mind. That is what we call Dhyana Yoga, Dhyana Yajna. So this is the second one. Another one is deliberate fasting. Upavasa. It's called Upavasa Yajna. And so one ingredient, by the way, of all the yajnas is there is some level of suffering involved. In any discipline, you look at these bodybuilders, I mean, they are in pain. Some of them are not. I am not in pain, but they are in pain. They are sometimes straining themselves. There is some suffering involved, but they are still going through with it. Similarly, in fasting, and I find people have some discipline. Some people don't. They fast on Mondays. Some people do once a year. But any general fasting is also a yajna. And not just for your own health, but really as a sense of discipline in the service of Ishvara is also one of the yajnas that you can think about, is upavas. Another one is called yatra yajna. The yatra yajna means pilgrimage, where you resolve in your mind that I must visit some temple, some place of pilgrimage. And that sense of aligning your life, where instead of just going to the beach and enjoying yourself, you go through a pilgrimage, is also called, one of the yajnas used, called yatra yajna. Another one is just general cleaning. And as even in the West it is called, cleanliness is next to godliness. And we agree with that completely. And in fact, in the Diwali time, I've gotten into the habit of making sure that my office, and I have a little puja place where I do my puja, and my office, and it gets messy over time. But then to start the year by cleaning everything. Cleaning also means putting things in a very proper way. So your books and your periodicals and your notes and so on are not all over the place. But a structured cleaning is an important aspect of it. Another one I find, when I sometimes go on somebody else's car, I can tell whether the person is involved in a discipline of cleaning or not. Because you find sometimes cars have papers lying over their place, because it's my car. Who cares? And sometimes you have to take a visitor. And then you have to spend a lot of time pushing things from here to there. And just keeping a general clean car is very important. I've gotten into the habit, if you just visit my car, for example, even if there's a piece of paper, then I want to make sure that it's taken away. And so general cleaning of the body. And of course, ultimately, the cleaning of the mind, which we will talk more about that later on. But just as I couldn't find the Sanskrit the word for this last night when I was doing this, so I'll find it. But the topic of yajna, of clean yajna, is an important aspect of it. And then, this is perhaps one of the more important ones, a yajna which is called Indriya Yajna. So Indriya Yajna means a management of the most important tools that you have been given. Really speaking, the whole life is nothing but utilizing tools. So car is a tool for going, and knife is a tool for cutting. Everything in the life is really just a tool for one's goodness, one's progress. Most important tools that we may not recognize are the 5 sense organs and the 5 organs of action. 10 organs. And these are tools given that you have to learn to manage and control for your own goodness. This is a huge topic, and so much time needs to be spent on this. But as a yajna, this is a very important thing where you are aware of what you are talking, what you are listening, what your body is doing. I remember Swami Dayanandji, when he made this very initially, I was in my 30s, and he pointed this out. He said, one of the things you should see is watch your own body. And what you will find is that excessive movement, I think we talked about this earlier also, but excessive movement, uncontrolled movement, means that these tools are on their own without your control. You're always fiddling around doing this or the other. Whereas a calm disposition, where you are aware of where you are at any one time, what your hands are doing, what your legs are doing, is part of the yajna. And much more important that is what you see, what you hear, what you talk about, and so on, is all part of the sensory yajna as part of the life. And so this is another yajna. Then another one is what is called Vishaya Yajna. This is a huge topic again. So Vishaya Yajna means being aware of things that fascinate you and through that bind you. So if I can just give you a quick commentary on this. So the word Vishaya, as you know this very well, though, and if you don't, then you should be aware of that. In Sanskrit, all words, 99.9% of the words have etymological meaning. It's called Vyutpatti Artha. So words are defined not just because of some combination of letters, but they have a meaning to it. So the word Vishaya, which is translated as things in English, is much more than that. How? So the word Vishya means there are a number of things that you see in your life that are called things, and we have a word for them which is called dravya. Dravya means, do I have it here? Yeah, this is two word. There are two different meaning of dravya. So this is a one on charity. So this is the same word dravya, but let's just use some other words. Just say things, not to confuse with charity. Things are things unless you develop a fascination for them. When you develop a fascination, they become Vishaya. And the etymological meaning of the word Vishaya is one that binds you, is called Vishaya. Because what happens is, once you develop a desire for, so for example, supposing there is something, some box or something like this. This is not a Vishaya. This is not a Vishaya. It's just a thing. But supposing you have an iPhone, or this is of course my latest Android Pixel 4 that I just got. And if somebody says, well, what is that? And say, that's a Pixel 4. Well, how did you get it? Well, how does it? Oh, this is fascinating. It's got a lot of good stuff, this, that, or the other. You develop a fascination, then the dravya is no longer just this. It becomes a Vishaya. Means now it has got you. It has gotten you. You are now strung and you like to have it. And now you find out, how do I get it? How much does it cost? When will I get it? This is called Vishaya. And so another discipline, another yajna is called Vishaya yajna. So Vishaya yajna means be aware of the things that are pulling your strings. What are you being pulled by? And examine them. And so until you examine and think about it, you are not free. You are being tugged along in various things without being aware of it. But once you become aware of it, doesn't mean you have to give up your fascination right away. But the whole process of becoming free also involves examining what are the things that you are fascinated with. And then slowly think about it and see, is it necessary or not. So this is called Vishaya Yajna. Then of course the so-called Dravya Yajna, which is a charitable disposition. So here our acharyas have all said that there is, in fact, if you look at the nature of the life that around us, it has a cyclical pattern. Cyclical pattern. And so Swami Dayanand used to say that. He says, God is the first reusable person. He uses everything reusable. Nothing is new. And so when we die, then we go back to the earth, and from the earth we are born again. Then we die and go back to the same thing all over again. So in this there is a process of giving and taking. Giving and taking. So one of the yajnas is to develop a sense of what am I giving, not just what am I taking. And if you do that, then your sense of harmony with the world increases. Because the nature of Ishvara, the nature of nature is that it gives. You look at the plants and how they generate oxygen for us. They're giving. They're also taking something from it. They take some of the nutrients from the soil, but they also give something back. So hidden in this whole equation is a balanced sense of giving and taking. And so here, a charitable disposition is a very beautiful disposition that allows you to have charitable yajna. This is another one that of the yajnas. Then the next one is Pranayama yajna, very important one. And so this is also a very important discipline. And here also, just as an example, sometimes we talked about bringing, remember the two ingredients that we saw of yajna. One was discipline and the other one is Ishvara. In pranayama, this is a great opportunity for you to understand both the ingredients. Wow, how? Let's look at the Ishvara first. I don't think there is anything else that you have which makes you appreciate Ishvara as effectively as observing your breath. Amazing. Sometimes we say, where is Ishvara, where is Ishvara? Where is Ishvara not? Start with your breath. Who is it the one who's keeping you alive? Are you responsible for your life? They say, this is interesting, you cannot even commit suicide by stopping your breath. Nobody can do that. Before you die, you will lose your consciousness. And so the breath is the gift of Ishvara that keeps you alive. And not only does the presence of oxygen, but the processing machinery for the oxygen is also given to you, in the case of your chest, your diaphragm. And who's moving it, by the way? Are you moving it? If you just have a complete collapse, then some outside bellows have to be done. But your lungs are a gift given to you by Ishvara. And so if you want to really start with understanding the presence of Ishvara, start with your breath. What a great interaction from the outside and inside. From the outside, so this is what is said, that outside it is air, inside it is your breath. And this goes back and forth, this interchange. What else do you need? Then, the one thing you could do is to practice pranayama. And pranayama, of course, has so many different aspects to it, but just simply observe the exhalation and inhalation. Make it as even as possible. If you learned the retention, do that, but you don't need to. Just observe. And if you just do the breath control as a discipline, what you find is that your mind also calms down. And so as a discipline, as a yajna, pranayama is a great yajna. Second to last, swadhyaya yajna. Swadhyaya yajna means here studying spiritual literature, inquiring into it, having a sense of curiosity, of appreciation, and so on. I think I may have mentioned it to you that there was a question one time I still remember the setting when this happened. This was in the Sailorsburg ashram, and Swami Dayanandji was alive, and he was having a satsang, small, just about 15-20 people, and there was a older teenager. I still remember her so well. She said, Swamiji, I have a question. He said, what kind of books and what kind of music would you recommend that I read? And I thought, it's a simple question, but the answer was very profound and really has struck me over the years. This is 15 years ago or so. He said, that is a very good question, because you have a choice of reading any kind of books, listening to any kind of music. And I think I mentioned this before also, I recall. He said, what I would recommend is reading classics as books and listening to classical music. Why? He explained, and I won't spend that much time. He said, classical music, as an example, is one that requires certain discipline. You have to understand, and especially I'm more familiar with Indian classical music, you have to understand the ragas. You get so absorbed. Instead of just the rap music that has no depth in it, if you listen to classical music and you recognize the patterns of raga, your mind is completely absorbed and you become more sattvic. Similarly, Swamiji mentioned that reading classic books that have a message that has transcended the years is a very important one. And so, for example, this is why the study of Shakespeare and the Indian classical books and so on is very important, because they contain concepts that are everlasting. And so this is, and of course this goes even beyond that. It means reading books, and it doesn't have to be just Vedanta. You can be talking about any kinds of spiritual books, the study of Christianity, Christian beliefs. And at least be aware of that is what is called Swadhyaya Yajna. Okay. Then comes the last and the most important one, called Jnana Yajna. Jnana Yajna. Why is it the most important one, we should ask? Because it is a direct inquiry into your reality, the very truth of who you are, not an indirect ones. The other ones are preparing you. But Jnana Yajna delivers directly. And the delivery directly is so subtle that the ability of books to deliver that convincing argument to you is missing. It doesn't happen. It has to be done by a teacher who has the following qualities. A teacher that has studied the matter in depth. In other words, not a casual teacher, but one has to spend years in understanding, number one. Secondly, their own life is a good example. You examine the teacher's life. What does he do? What's he involved in? What's his character like? Is he a flighty person? Or is he somebody who's real? And the third thing is, do I trust and respect that person? So this is why having a relationship is an important one. So then you find that the message may come through. Even then it is not certain. But if it has any chance of happening, it is only because of these requires. This is why the Guru is required. So here in the 4th chapter, in verse number 3, in chapter number 4, verse 33 is talked about. Okay, so verse number 33, which I'll just read. Okay, and then verse number 34. Verse number 33 summarizes why Jnana Yajna is the direct study. So if you want any confirmation of that, you can just make it there. So he says, Shreyan Dravyam Dravyamayadya Jnata Jnana Yajna Parantapa Sarvam Karma Akhilam Partha Jnane Parisamapyate. This is the important one. Jnane Parisamapyate means that all the other yajnas end up in the Jnana Yajna. So that means that they are all indirect. This is the one which is direct. Then, verse number 34 is relating to the teaching. This is one of the most often quoted verses in Bhagavad Gita. It says, Tat vidhi pranipatena pariprashnena sevaya upadekshanti te jnanam jnaninaha tattvadarshinaha. It says, may you trust yourself to study with a teacher with the right attitude. The right attitude is pranipatena. I won't go into all the details of it. Pariprashnena means having a dialogue. Sevaya, having a commitment to the teaching. And if you do all this, then they will reveal the knowledge to you. Who? The jnaninaha tattvadarshinaha, the ones who have really spent their lifetime in the study of this. So this is the culmination of Jnana Yajna, and it is pointed out in the verse number 34. Then, towards, I won't go into the other subtopics like the Mahima and the Phalam to the same degree. I just want to give you Yajna. But anyway, the topics are talked about. So this has, I think, 42 verses or so. Let's see, how many does it have? Yeah, 42 verses. So verse number 34 to 34, 35 to 42 talks about the Mahima of Jnanam and also the Phalam of Jnanam. But there is one verse which is very well quoted, which gives the unique importance of Jnanam, and it is called this verse number 38. I didn't write it down for some reason. So this is verse 38. And this verse, if you see any of the literature that we have in Swami Dayanandaji's ashram, this has the prime space in all of them. And it goes like this. Nahi jnanena sadrisham pavitram iha vidyate. Nahi jnanena sadrisham pavitram iha vidyate. And then there's a second line, which is not as telling is this one. So let me just focus on this. What does it mean? It means that compared to Jana Yoga, nothing purifies you as much. Nahi jnanena sadrisham pavitram. Pavitram means one which is pure. I'll explain the meaning of that in a minute. He says there is nothing available in the whole life that compares with the effectiveness of self-knowledge in giving you purity. This is the verse. And this summarizes the rest of the chapter 4, which I won't go into because of lack of time, 35 to 42. So, but at least look at this verse for a minute. So, what is said is that for a person who wants to make progress in one's life, and we all do, you know, we all want to get better. How do I get better? How can I become happier? This is what we are all doing. There are various ways to make that happening. Discipline is one. Having good goals is another. Keeping good health is another. Making sure that you are secure is another. Your future is done. All of this is these are different. So these are what would be called purifying agents. Purity means that you want to maintain certain level of happiness for a length of time. This is what could be called a purity. And there are various means for you to do so. Out of them, there is nothing like self-knowledge. None of them are as effective and as helpful as understanding your own nature very well. Because what happens is that you have left out an important ingredient in your life. Unwittingly or whatever it is, but you have not done a very complete job of your taking inventory of your life. You're missing something. And if you understood that, things really become very clear to you, very pure for you. So this is the meaning of this verse. Nahi jnanena sadrisham pavitram iha vidyate. And Swami Dayanandji, my teacher, has chosen this verse as the Bible in the first line of all literature in our, as you must have really seen that. It comes in the 4th chapter in the 38th verse. Nahi jnanena sadrisham pavitram iha vidyate. This is the Mahima of it. It might take a little while, but there is nothing like this. Because after that, there is nothing more that is left to be done. There is nothing more that you're done. So with this, chapter 4 is finished. So in summary, like chapter 3 was concentrating on Karma Yoga, chapter 4 focuses on Jnana Yoga. This you should remember and be clear about. So with this, chapter 4 is over. And now in the remaining time, I would like to spend some time discussing chapter 5. And then one more class to look at chapter 6. And then we are done with the introduction of Vedanta and summarizing of the first 6 chapters. And we'll go into a more detailed analysis, I wouldn't say verse by verse, by concept, with the 7th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita. So I'll take the rest of the day today for the 5th chapter and 6th chapter next week, and then we are done with the review. Okay, let's go to the 5th chapter. fifth chapter, the main objective of the fifth chapter is not to bring in a fresh new idea, but to consolidate and clarify the two main topics of the Bhagavad Gita, which is Karma Yoga and Jnana Yoga. So Karma Yoga given in number 3, Jnana Yoga given in number 4, and number 5 essentially gives a lot of commentary, lot of clarification, lot of thinking, lot of examination, lot of analysis of these two alone. Okay? And if you recall, one thing I had mentioned to you before is that the nature of knowledge is, especially if something is told to you which is brand new that you had never thought of before, and it seems kind of unfamiliar to you. If that kind of a knowledge is pursued, it has 3 segments. So one is called Shravanam, one is Mananam, and one is Nididhyasanam. These are the 3 segments, and most of you are aware of that. So what it means is that Shravanam means a clear understanding of what is being said, which you were not aware of. Something brand new. It's called Shravanam. And for you to completely understand what is being said, having a trust in it, is all part of Shravanam. Okay? Then the second one is called Mananam. And Mananam means you start to examine the truth of what is being told to you. And you don't initially, because the experiences of life are not consistent with what is being told. So it looks like there is some disparity between them, inconsistency. And so the method of examination of, when there is inconsistency, what are your options? Your options are to go back to your experiences of your life as the main teacher of what you need to do. Forget about what is being taught. Just go back to your own experiences, which is what many of us do actually. This is option number 1. Option number 2 is completely go into the understanding of the new knowledge and forget about your experiences. That doesn't happen. That happens very rarely. And in fact, that becomes a subject of the 5th chapter, which we will study in a minute. This is what is called lifestyle, nishtha. I'll come to that in a minute. So that's option number 2, where you change your lifestyle completely. And your experiences are also changed, and it doesn't happen very often, and it's not that effective. The third and the one that is recommended is continue to have the same experiences, but start to analyze and view them in view of the new insights given by the Jnana. This is what you need to do. That process is called Mananam, where you look at the veracity or non-veracity of the knowledge, compare them to the experiences. And by the way, the process of examination is also provided by the teaching. It's not, the teaching doesn't say, you do whatever you can, I don't care, you have to figure it out. No. And in fact, the entire sadhanani, the yajnas that we went through, is a method for you to slowly submit your mind to the understanding of the knowledge. And so this is what is called Mananam. So Mananam means, assisted by the scriptures, how do you reconcile two completely different aspects of your life? There I am a very limited person, full of problems is my experience. There I am an unlimited person and I have nothing to do with problems is what the Shruti is saying. These two are completely separate things altogether. How do I reconcile them? So the Shruti understands it. Shruti means the scriptural authority. It knows it. There's nothing new to it. It says you will see this, but here's how you reconcile them. This process is called Mananam. So in that sense, the 5th chapter is Mananam specific. All the things that are talked about are much more focused on Mananam. In fact, the whole Bhagavad Gita is a Mananam, but if you were to single out one chapter that really focuses on Mananam, it will be the 5th chapter. So the 5th chapter is not a new Shravanam. That has already been done in number 3 and 4. What it does is to revisit it and examines it and analyzes it in terms of what it is. This is called Mananam. Then, if doubts have become clear, then you can speed up its application to your life. You can increase thinking about it in a meditative state and enjoy the benefits of this amazing new knowledge as it applies to you. This is a process called Nididhyasana. That will be the nature and the topic of the 6th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, which we will do next time. Okay? So that is the flow of the chapters. Chapter 5 introduces a very interesting concept as a way of understanding the Shravanam. It introduces a confusing element in our life as we try to reconcile. There is a confusion that we have to see. And so this is the concept of ashrama, called lifestyle. So this is the key aspect of the 5th chapter, and we'll go into that. I must say, however, that the ashrama is fully visible more in India than in the West. Here also I find that monasteries are there where renunciates live, but nothing compared to what you see in India. It is really a land where it allows you, because of the cost, because of the climate, people can just sleep under a tree and not freeze, and they can always find something to eat, so they can become full renunciates all their lives. But it's also seen here also. It's very possible that, in fact, where I live, there is a nunnery, and so the nuns live there, and they ring bells in the morning to remind. And so they have renunciations here as well, but nothing like in India. So, but it doesn't matter. The concept of what is called ashrama, lifestyle, is being introduced in the 5th chapter. So let's get into that. What does it mean? Why is it important for me? Okay? So basically, there are two options for each living being. One is what is called a Grishastha ashrama. This means an active lifestyle of becoming a householder, getting married, having children or not having children, whatever, but to work, to earn a living, to be a member of the society. This is what is called Grihastha ashrama. Ashrama means a stage. The second one is what is called sannyasa ashrama. Sannyasa ashrama means a life of a renunciate. And here also you see that, but fundamentally what distinguishes a sannyasa ashrama from the other one is, and in fact this is done, by the way, when a person turns into a swami, when a diksha is given. Diksha means the status of becoming a swami is given. This is an important thing. We'll discuss this in more detail. What does it mean? The main thing that is done, there are two main things which are taken as vows by the Swami. Two main things. One is, I will not hurt anyone. I've resolved not to hurt anyone, either through my words, or through my deeds, or through my body. This is one. The second one given is, I will accept whatever is given to me, I will not demand it. So the whole concept of bhiksha. Bhiksha means alms that you get from, is the fundamental aspect of the sannyasa ashrama. So this is called the sannyasa ashrama, where non-competition, because they say that competition is also something that can potentially hurt someone. You take somebody else's job, and you don't care about, you celebrate that you are the winner, and somebody else is the loser. Not so in the sannyasa ashrama. In sannyasa ashrama, you have no real responsibility except to yourself. You have no relationships. You have no sense of competition. And you cannot demand anything. This is called the sannyasa ashrama. Okay? So, just a very brief introduction to the ashramas. Now, as a human being starts the life, there are three options of how do you utilize these two ashramas. Okay? Option number one, you stay as a householder all your life. Householder meaning that you start a family, have a home, you pay for the home, and you then retire, and hopefully you have enough people that can take care of you, either your own family or the government or something, and eventually you leave the home, leave the world. This is the life of a householder. This is option number one. The second one is not even enter the household. You become a renunciate from the very beginning. You are, as a child, you are of course brought up by somebody, but then you decide that I want to be a renunciate. I want to be a sannyasi. I don't want to get married. I don't want to have children. I don't want to have any home. And you go to some swami, and it doesn't have to be Vedanta, by the way. So if you go to, as I'm sure many of you might have been, if you go to Haridwar or to Rishikesh, you see full of people who are renunciates, and they don't study, they don't have a guru. They might have had somebody, they just follow it, but they have given the lifestyle. They are sophisticated beggars, is really what they are. And they just live on the alms of the other people and so on and so forth. This is the life of a renunciate. Okay, this is the option number two. The third option is to be a householder for a while and then take up renunciation. And so this is also an option. Many of the Swamis take this option. Swami Tattvavidananda Ji, when he's coming in next Monday, was one of these. He was the third option. He was a householder. He was a scientist. He worked there. I don't know his entire situation, but after a while he decided that my life as a householder is now over, and I want to take a sannyasa. So he approached Swami Dayanand Ji, and Swami Dayanand Ji agreed. These are not done as a routine. Any of the Swamis will examine your situation and see what is needed, how will the effect on the spouses and the children might be, and if everything goes well, then you are given a sannyasa. These are the three ones. Okay, now starts the chapter 5. Having given you the background on what the ashramas are, let's look at the message of chapter 5. Chapter 5 begins with a confusion in Arjuna's mind, as it usually does. Every chapter articulates a confusion in the student's mind. So the first verse of the 5th chapter, if you want to see that, is Arjuna Uvacha. He says something to Krishna. Sannyasam karmanam Krishna punaryogam sa shamsasi yat shreya etayoho ekam tanme bruhi sunishchitam. So he says, Hey Krishna, you praise the renunciation of actions and also karma yoga, which is not a renunciation of karma but a life of karma. So you have praised both of them. Tell me definitely which is the better of the two. Sannyasam karmanam Krishna punaryogam. Sannyasam karmanam sannyasam Krishna punaryogam samshasi. First of all, sometime you were saying this is the best way to do it. Then you were talking about karma, and I am confused. How can you say both things? Tell me exactly which is better and tell me this is what I should do. So as a way of explaining Krishna, which I will do in a minute, Krishna says, and I'll just recite the first of his answers. Sri Bhagavan Uvacha, number 2. Sannyasaha karma yogascha nishreyasa karavubhau tayostu karma sannyasat karma yoga vishishyate. He says, both the renunciation of action and performance of action as yoga lead to liberation. But out of these two, the performance of action as yoga is better than renunciation of action. This is what he replies. Okay? All right, so now let us study. This is the crux of the 5th chapter. So, in Arjuna's mind was, I'm involved in a very active life, obviously. He's in the middle of a war, and everybody is expecting him to lead the war and become a very active soldier and to protect the dharma and do the right things. An active life, in other words. And so went for the advice of Krishna. What should I do? Krishna was explaining to him that really renunciation is a lifestyle that you can take, and it has lots of advantages. And in fact, in many ways, this is what everybody has to do eventually, is what he said. And so then Arjuna says, based on what you told me, it appears to me I like to become a renunciate right now. At this minute. I've decided. I don't have any doubts anymore. I've just listened to you. And I want to now give up my weapons. And he starts to disrobe. We got all these things, bulletproof webs and vests and so on and so forth. He says, done. You've praised renunciation, that appeals to me. Just do meditation, sitting quietly at one place. I don't want to really fight anymore. This is what I want to do. Shouldn't I do this? Don't you think? And Krishna says, not so fast, Buster. No. Why is that the case? This is the crux of the 5th chapter, and which goes back to the very basics of the discussion between chapter 3 and chapter 4. This is why it's something not new. With the exception of this concept of ashrama, which we will now get into. Krishna says that when it comes to the ashrama, and ashrama means in English would be a lifestyle. What kind of a lifestyle do I want to lead, which will be good for me? This is what is called ashrama. So Krishna says that there are 2 ashramas, Grishastha and Sannyasa. Okay? And Krishna says, by the way, I should tell you this, you actually have a choice of which of the 2 you want to take. And I am okay with that. I don't say you got to do one or the other. You have a complete choice over that. That's up to you. There are some guidelines and we will assist you with it. But as far as the lifestyle goes, you have a choice. Okay? Then the second thing is called yoga. And yoga means either karma yoga or jnana yoga, as we have been discussing in the 3rd and 4th chapter, and as we have been discussing from the very beginning of the 2nd chapter. It's called yoga. Yoga means what are the primary means of understanding and doing. There you have no choice. So Arjuna, please be aware of the difference between choosing ashrama and choosing yoga. And then he goes on explaining why this is the case. Okay? He says that, as we have already discussed before, you have no choice, because it is exactly like saying, which we did before also, somebody walking up to someone and he says, should I go to kindergarten or should I go for my PhD? Swami Paramarthananda had said very interestingly, he says, supposing you go to a shop and you are looking for shirts. So there you can have a choice. Should I buy a full sleeve shirt or a half sleeve shirt? Should I buy no iron or with iron? Should it be linen or cotton? Yes. Same thing with pants. Should I wear Levi's? Should I wear some no iron? Whatever. But do you have a choice of wearing either the shirt or the pants? I mean, if you want to be a decent person, not walk around with your underwear, you should have both of them. You cannot say to someone, should I buy a shirt or should I buy pants? You should buy both of them. So within you have a choice. So ashrama means there is a choice between the similar types. But yoga means you need both. You have to do karma yoga. Otherwise, things will not make any sense to you. And they don't. This is exactly what happens. We study books and we talk about Atma and this, that, or the, Ishvara and so on. Don't make any sense. That's because you haven't really done any preparation for it. So this he explains well. And what he means is, both the householders and the renunciates have to do karma yoga first and then jnana yoga later. So what this mean is, and so let me, now I can, it says, both of them have to do karma yoga, means preparation, improving themselves, improving their attitudes, their minds. And both of them have to study. And out of that, I feel that the doing karma yoga in renunciates is more difficult. Karma yoga is doing better in the ashrama of a Grishastha. This is what he means by the second verse when he answers. So let's look into that. Let's see why that is the case. What it means is that in the Grihastha ashrama, what happens is, really in all of our lives, the reason we do not understand what my reality is about the as an Atma is because I am so enamored, so occupied by my life of limitations. And this is exemplified by having strong likes and dislikes. I really like this. I hate this other thing. Hey, calm down. Look into both aspects of it. No, I don't want to look into it. This is what I believe in. I have to have certain personality. And it's based by some beliefs and likes and dislikes and so on. This is what our lifestyle is. What can a teacher do? And say, okay, well, just lead your lifestyle, then don't try to come to me then. And so like we were just discussing this in the earlier class today, that in a way, I am lying in a coffin where the lids are closed and I cannot open it because the nails are so strong. I'm alive in a coffin and somebody has put me in a coffin of limitations, limitedness. And every nail that has really nailed me and I cannot get out is because of my likes and dislikes. And for me to do that, I have to just calm down and understand there is something beyond likes and dislikes. This is a topic we will see more later on. The giving up of likes and dislikes is much more difficult in a renunciate than in the household. And we see the evidence of this. We see the evidence because you find that people living in an ashram or living in a renunciate, they are life of a sannyasi is not easy. You cannot get angry at someone. You cannot berate someone. You cannot criticize. You forget about anger. You cannot even criticize someone. it looks very out of place. You have to just submit to whatever happens to you. And I remember, it was interesting, I was listening to this talk by Swami Paramarthananda, and he was saying, you have no idea what the life of a sannyasi is, how difficult it is. You cannot, you cannot just go to Safeway and buy things on your own. You have to depend on somebody bringing food for you. And there are often times that there is no food. Nobody forgets, people forget it, you don't know how to do it. Swami Maheshananji's, the books that I read a lot, he was saying, he says the same thing is true for the sannyasi. There what happens is that a sannyasi, remember those of us that are in India, we are very familiar with this, there will be a kind of like a knock on the door in the end, and they have a peculiar one. I remember in Amritsar, there are 4 or 5, there's something. And so the elder lady of the house who's there, she'll say, here comes the sannyasi. Let's make sure that give him something. And there are others who will say, why should I do that? These people are just good for nothing. All they want is free food. I'm not going to give you anything. So Swami Maheshananji was saying that sometimes you go from village to village and the villages throw stones at you and say, don't even come near us. We have hardly anything to eat. Then you go hungry for the whole day, whole night. You go on to the next village. Life is not easy. And so for you to give up likes and dislikes in the sannyasa ashrama is much more difficult. Please don't do that. So this you should know. This is something that I think you are aware of, but let me just tell you. So these swamis that they come and teach you and teach us and so on and so forth. There are two classes of swamis. So, in fact, if you want, I can write this down so that you are aware of this. Here it is. So, one type, I'll just write the Sanskrit first and then I will explain later. This is called Vividisha Sannyasi. Vividisha Sannyasi, this is a Sanskrit construct which says, I first write down another one. Veditum Ichha. Veditum Ichha means the desire to know. Veditum Ichha means the desire to know. So they have taken into sannyasa ashrama. They are not knowers of Brahma and Atma today. They are not absolutely clear about it, but they want to know it more clearly. And in order to know it more clearly, they have become sannyasi. Because see their what they're trying to do. They are very clear that this is what I want to do. I don't want to become a manager of a startup company or anything like this. I don't want to have children or so on. I want to know the truth. I don't know the truth today, but I'm committed to have a lifestyle where I will know that. This is called Vividisha Sannyasi. The second one is called Vidvat Sannyasi. The knower, he's already known. It's called Vidvat Sannyasi. I mean, I'm just venturing it out on my own personal view, but most of the sannyasis that you see are Vividesha Sannyasi, not Vidvat Sannyasi. And the only difference between householder type of Grishastha, we are also Vividesha Grihastha. We are also knowing, we want to know also, but within the lifestyle of a Grihastha. And the Swamis also, they are also knowing, but they are, how much time are you spending? You are spending, I was having this discussion with Swami Paramarthananda in Chennai. This is about 7 years ago, and I had a nice conversation with him. And so he was asking me, so I'm a householder, I'm also teaching and so on. So he says, well, how much time do you spend? So I said, I teach 3 classes a week, which was not always the case. I used to teach 1 or 2 and now so on. So I was asking him what kind of things I should be doing, this, that, or the other. Well, I asked him, how many classes a week do you teach? 9 classes. Every day there is a class, and sometimes on weekends he has 2 classes. And you can imagine how involved he is, because he's a sannyasi, I'm a householder. He has much more time, much more knowledge, much more understanding than I do. For no other reason, for of course he's a much brighter person than I am, but for no other reason that he's able to spend that much time. On the other hand, I consider him to be a Vidvat Sannyasi, really. On the other hand, I have seen sannyasis that really are angry, but they cannot express it very well. I'll give you one example, okay? Please don't. This is a number of years ago, about 25 years ago. So one of the sannyasis was sent by Swami Dayanand. He was from Odisha, the state of Odisha. And he said, Vijay, I forget his name now. He's coming there, please help him into some talks or something. So I had a student here, Ramesh, in Fremont. This is 25 years ago. So Ramesh said that he can stay with me for a few days and I'll take him to the talks. Ramesh had one problem. He was never on time. And this Swami came, was really irritated. When there is a class that starts at 7:30, he wants to be there at 7:30. And Ramesh is still on the phone at 7:28 and he hasn't found the car keys yet, this, that, or the other. So one day Ramesh came to me in tears, really in tears, grown man. And so I said, what happened? He says, the Swami was so angry with me that the other day he started walking towards the venue and said, I'm not going with you. And he said, Swamiji, please, I'm very sorry. He says, no, that's it. I'm not doing that. So I was telling this to Swami Dayanandji. I said, this is a Swami. Even I would not display such kind of a thing. He says, this happens all the time. Because their emotions get built up to a point they cannot really express themselves. And they become very angry. So anyway, this whole thing is the main discussion for chapter 5. Krishna says, if I were you, Arjuna, please understand, even though you have a choice of becoming a sannyasi, I agree with that. I wouldn't recommend it. Why not? Because the task of cleaning up your life, this is the pavitra miha vidyate, is an enormous one. And you're much better off in staying as a householder. Much better. And then study. I do agree that as a householder you won't get as much time as a sannyasi would, but do not take to sannyasa unless you are ready. And there also continue to do so. So this becomes kind of the central theme of the 5th chapter. So if you study the 5th chapter, I'm just giving you the overall aspects of it. There's a lot more details of it, but this is exactly what the gist of the concepts are. And the idea is to soften up your life of strong likes and dislikes. Be tolerant towards others. Be tolerant to yourself. And as you do, using the various yajnas that we talked about earlier, jnana sadhanani, by resorting more to any one of those. It doesn't mean that you have to do japa and meditation. Those are all options for you to choose from. But really a lifestyle of study and to reform your thinking prepares you as a karma yogi until you are ready for jnana yoga. So this is my advice to you, Krishna says. And the key thing here is, I'll just quickly mention this. This is a big thing which we will have to study later on. So our acharyas say that it is not enough to understand the mithyatvam of the world. The non-reality of the world to understand is difficult, but unfortunately not even enough. The more important thing is to understand that you, the way you take yourself to be today, itself is mithya. What is said is this. I think we have, remember I told you that I would cite you the progress of Bhagavad Gita based on some of the concepts that we have studied earlier. So here's one example of that. You cannot say that I am fully awake from a dream by falsifying the dream and not falsifying the dreamer. See, this is the thing. You cannot say the rest of the world is a dream. But I am, as a person, real. If this is the way you are thinking, then you are mistaken. It is exactly like saying that I cannot wake up from a dream, maintaining my dreamer status, but giving up the dreamt status. Can't do that. This is the biggest issue that we have. We take ourselves too seriously. Don't mess with me. And I'm trying to improve myself. Yes, it's okay. You are not going to improve yourself forever. You yourself are a status of a dreamer. And to really become knowledgeable, this is what is meant by, and this is a huge thing, not an easy thing to do. You are not doing everything. You are not doing anything. In fact, you are not doing anything. Even though the dreamer is doing things, but the dreamer is not you. This is what is called akartritvam abhoktritvam. And this understanding is a goal. It is not going to happen right away, but it must be used as an intermediate step. That don't take yourself that seriously. You yourself are a bundle of conflicts. The world is a bundle of conflicts, and so are you. Both have to be given up. And if you do, then you have a better chance of waking up. So this is one of the messages of the 5th chapter. And interestingly enough, what happens is that you cannot take up a new topic and fully exhaust it. So what Krishna does is put some seeds into it and then goes later on to fructify the seed. So he puts seeds all over the place. And so this is one of the seeds that he puts in the 5th chapter, is that you are not a karta, you are not a bhokta. Ishvara is doing everything for you. You do not realize it. But it doesn't explain it fully. It just puts the seeds in. As it does also in extolling the virtue of the knowledge, he plants the seed in the last 4 verses of the 5th chapter for nididhyasana. And so that will be fructifying in more detail in the 6th chapter that we will do next time. So with that, I'll close the class. Om Asato Ma Sadgamaya Tamaso Ma Jyotirgamaya Mrityor Ma Amritam Gamaya Om Purnamadav Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Be happy to entertain some questions, or then I have a couple of things I want to announce. So 3 things actually, 3 things. Let me tell you that if you have questions, I'll be happy to answer it. So one thing is that we will not have a class next week, as you know, because of Swami Tattvavedanandaji's visit, and I hope you can come to at least some, if not all, of the class of his talks. But we will resume this 2 weeks from Saturday. Next Saturday we will not have one. The second request I have is that we need a couple of volunteers on Monday night, which is the 11th, downstairs in the main hall, for being in the registration table. I think there's like 4 people, that 2 are already there, and we need 2 other people. So if you are able to come a little bit earlier and just assist, at least on the first day. I think second day would be much better. So you can just talk to Chandra. Chandra will take your names down, if you can please tell. Chandra is the one with the red shirt, that's why he wore it, so he's easily visible to everybody. So you can please talk to Chandra, and then if you can be there. So that's number 2. The third thing is that one of our students, Ashok, would like to invite you for a special puja. So Ashok, come and...
I can say from here. Thank
Okay.
you. So 12th of November happens to be Guru Nanak Ji's 550th birthday. So we are having a puja. It starts at 5:30 in the morning and goes till 7, and there will be a traditional Punjabi breakfast to be served, please do come. And I can give you the address. Would you care to come? Please note it down. Can I say it now or?
Sure, yeah.
It is 44246 Viewpoint Circle, that's 3 words, in Fremont, California, 94538, and the phone number is 510-249-6475, 5:30 to 7.
Wonderful. We still have some more posters here. If you want to take some, feel free to do so. Any questions about the class that you had? Okay, if not, then we'll see you.
Thank you. Okay, what's your name?
After
I think the class is at 7 o'clock, so probably around 6:30. 6:30, for it. Yeah, people will be coming in before that. I don't think there'll be too many people prior to that.
I talked to the Campbell Theatre yesterday
Yeah.
in quite a bit of detail because they are very, very formal like other theatres.
I see.
Yeah, I mean here it kind of, you have to dig in